Welcome to our third conversation on religion and mental illness. I'm Dr. Nancy Keogh, a clinical psychologist and author of the book Wrestling with Our Inner Angels, Faith, Mental Illness, and the Journey to Wholeness. I'm talking today with Michael Mack, a poet, playwright, and performer. He has written a powerful play entitled Hearing Voices, Speaking in Tongues, a story about his mother's recovery from schizophrenia. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation, Nancy.
In your powerful and very moving play, Hearing Voices, Speaking in Tongues, you describe your mother's journey with schizophrenia. And in the play, two elements stand out very strongly. One was her religious delusions, and the other was her very powerful life of faith that grounded her. Could you say a little bit about how you think the men and women who treated your mother dealt with these two parts of her life?
I'd like to unpack both of those words just for a moment, the word faith and the word delusions. My mom was a practicing Catholic and a devout Catholic since the time that she was very young. And so long before she was first diagnosed with schizophrenia, she was living a life of faith, one that was very important to her. When she became ill in her late 20s, first diagnosed with schizophrenia, delusions, which you mentioned, were a part of that illness. So for example, one time she thought that she was the Blessed Virgin. One time she thought that my father was Jesus. Another time thought that he was the devil. And one time thought that her doctor was God. So clearly, delusions were a part of her illness. But that does not discount the fact that long before she was experiencing those delusions, she was living a life of faith. But unfortunately, typically, what the healthcare practitioners would do would be to lump all of her faith into that bucket of delusions and pathology.
Mm-hmm. Do you think for her, she recognized the difference between when she was in the grips of her symptoms and when she was really in touch with the roots of her faith that were sustaining for her?
Well, when she was actively psychotic, no. When somebody is experiencing psychosis, then it's very difficult for them to distinguish what is real, what is not real, what is healthy, what is not healthy. But the good news is that she was not actively psychotic all that often. It was a relatively small fraction of her life. Most of the time she was in treatment, she was in recovery, and it was during those times that the real work got to be done.
Mm-hmm. So what would you like to leave our viewers with in relation to this whole thorny question of religious delusions and faith that grounds somebody?
For a person of faith, their faith is one of the most, if not the most, important part of their lives. And so that needs to be a part of the conversation. That needs to be a part of that healthy conversation that is essential to recovery. And so what I would invite healthcare practitioners to know is that they are the bridge between the world of faith and the world of medicine. And when somebody comes to them as a patient, they usually don't have the wherewithal to be the bridge themselves. So it's up to the healthcare practitioner to do that work. And my mom's last 16 years of her life were her recovery.
So
Largely,
somebody made that bridge for her.
Many people made that bridge, one of them being her psychiatrist. Even though he was not a man of faith himself, even though he was an atheist, he was still cognizant of the fact that her faith was important to her and that he could be that bridge between these two worlds of faith and medicine.
Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing this story and for sharing the play with so many viewers.
Thank you, Nancy. Glad to be here.